let's end this by talking about the
best part of the movie.
The best part of this movie. The best part of all of these movies. The man behind the boat chase, Desmond Llewellyn, who I mispronounced his name in the very first episode of second episode of this podcast. My bad. Second episode of this podcast.
How'd you pronounce it?
I Lewin or something. I don't know. I don't remember what I said. I said something and you were like, that's not how you say his name. It's Desmond Llewellyn. Get it right. Desmond Llewellyn, who we are, of course, toasting to this movie because this is his last film. Now
pay attention.
Now pay attention.
Now pay attention, 007.
The film suggests that Desmond Llewellyn would retire after this film, which in the canon it does, but that wasn't actually the case. In the interviews leading up to the film's release, he had stated that he'd return if the producers wanted him, and I fucking quote, or if God wants me. That's what he said. Is that not creepy?
I'm there until the producers don't want me, and the Almighty does.
The producers that he's there until he doesn't want to do it anymore. That's what they say.
Yeah, well, I'm there until God wants me.
How old was he though when he passed?
He was 85 years old when he passed away.
So
I can only surmise. Now, granted, I only surmise that Desmond Llewellyn had kept asking the producers, I should have an assistant. I should have an assistant in these movies. And they were like, okay, well, let's cast somebody, a famous British actor, John Cleese, Barbara Broccoli, and Mikey G. Whiz were like, this is our backdoor if something happens to Desmond.
Nickname.
Mikey G. Whiz. This is our backdoor if...
Gee whiz, yeah. every time something doesn't make sense in one of these movies, Mikey G. Whiz.
I'm only guessing that they were like, okay, well, let's put that in there because Desmond is getting kind of old, not realizing that it was kind of a blessing in disguise that they did do that. So only 3 weeks after the film was released. So Llewellyn did see the movie. Lesman would die from a car crash, head-on car crash that he was heading to a book signing.
Actor Desmond Llewellyn, best known for a recurring role in James Bond films, was killed in a head-on car crash in England today. Llewellyn was driving alone on his way home from a book signing.
The other person in the other car also was the other person in the other car didn't die, but they were also severely injured.
Dang. He didn't die of old age? He died in a car accident?
Yes.
What?
You didn't know that?
What? No.
Yeah, he passed away in a car crash.
Oh my God! What?
And it's
God wanted him.
It doesn't get any weirder to the fact that the last time you ever see him, because I as I was watching the movie, I'm like, I thought he's in the end of the movie. He's not in the end of the movie.
No.
At the end of the movie, if you remember, it's just John Cleese.
You're not retiring anytime soon, are you?
Now pay attention, 007. I've always tried to teach you two things. First, never let them see you bleed.
And the second?
Always have an escape plan.
I think the advice that he gives Bond at the end there, that's something I've told people in the past that they didn't know that it came from this movie. But I think in dealing with people in general, and maybe I say this as a generally introverted person, but when you are dealing with people day to day, whether it's, professionally or otherwise, have you ever been in a social situation and people go, they're telling the whole room that they're uncomfortable, and you go, hey, you're letting people see you bleed. Never let people see you bleed. It's a metaphor. It doesn't mean, you get shot and you let them see you bleed. Don't let people see you bitch and moan and complain and be anything less than stoic, and then have a way of getting out of that situation. It's a call to controlling your emotion so that your emotions do not control you, which is something that Bond actually grapples with in this movie because of Elektra, which is the polar opposite advice you get out of stupid fucking Frozen, which is let your emotions out in an uncontrollable way that's damaging to everybody around you, but everybody else, let it go. That. You're at a party and you want to be like, I'm anxious, I'm nervous. It's like, no. You're letting people see you bleed. You're uncomfortable in your job. You're uncomfortable in whatever situation. Don't show it. And then have that escape plan. It's such a beautiful exit. I mean, I kind of get a little teary-eyed every time Q does his little lowering out of frame. It's beautiful. It's
You'd
perfect.
think they knew he was like gonna die soon.
It's as if they knew he had cancer or something. That's why I always assumed that he had something, but that the fact that he died
eerie that it's weird because it happened the way it happened, and like you remember, like M passed away like in the middle of these movies, and they didn't have that same backup of having a replacement necessarily like they did, and they kind of did this like half-assed thing that sort of works for the movie, whatever. It's just so by sheer luck that they were like, oh yeah, we cast John Cleese as his replacement.
Even the way that it's edited, though, like, okay, you said that Llewellyn saw the film. They cut it in a way that almost as if that he had already passed, right? Like he died after they shot it, but then when they were cutting it together,
and it's not how it happened.
But the way they handle that moment is it's kind of a soft moment. It's put together in a way as if it's a send off, as if it's saying goodbye.
Yeah, and
so it's so eerie that's not the way it actually was. That they had no clue that he was gonna go. Like
It's crazy too. Like there's arguments to be made about who's the best Bond, who's the best Blofeld, who's the best M or whatever, but I don't think there's any arguments against Desmond Llewellyn's Q being the best.
He lasted through every single Bond. Like he was in at least one film or another up until Brosnan. He was with every single Bond. Out of 5 out of the 6 Bonds, he shared a movie with.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like Moneypenny didn't do that. M didn't do that, but Q did. Q was with every single Bond. He probably only had like 2 days on each of these movies. Like he probably did not spend a lot of days on each of these films, but he was in so many of these movies over so many years, over so many different decades. He wasn't in Dr. No. It was a different actor who played the same character essentially. And then he couldn't be in Live and Let Die because of a scheduling conflict because he was working on something else at the time. But he was in 17 of the 19 Bond films that there was to that point.
That's crazy.
So he had seen everything transpire from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and into the 90s, almost to the millennium. This one is to Desmond Llewellyn, who played Q.
Q.
To Q.
To Q.